So it's now my pleasure to introduce the first storyteller of the night. Each storyteller that comes up here, we're going to share a fun fact about their favorite Jewish food. This storyteller says, my favorite Jewish food is potato latkes, as long as they're thin, crispy, and fried in somebody else's kitchen. So reading her story, the baby name advisor, put your hands together as we welcome to the stage, Nina Badzin!
Dear Nina, my wife and I need help naming our first child. Here's the deal. She likes trendy names, but I like Jewish names. I want to make her happy, but our last name is Weisberg, and it's always made me cringe to hear names like Mackenzie Weisberg and Hunter Weisberg. How could I name my child something so not Jewish, with such a Jewish last name? So that's a sample of the kind of emails I've been answering over the past many years from Jewish parents asking for my baby name advice. They find me from one of the handful of baby name articles I wrote over the years in which I discuss my many rules for naming a Jewish baby. At this point with an advice seeker, I gather more information. Is there a first letter we need to use? Are there cousins whose names we have to avoid? Are they going for a nickname, a certain syllable count? Do they want a universally pleasing, but it can be a Jewish name like Maya, Noah, Zach? Or are they aiming for loud and proud with Avital, Talia, or Ezra? A parent heading all the way in with a Chava or a Mordechai. They don't write to me for advice. They tend to be using the actual name of the relative they're honoring. If these email senders found me through my articles, they know I have all kinds of baby name rules that really have nothing to do with the Jewish factor at all. Like an example is I don't like siblings' names that rhyme, and I'm really not into matchy stuff. For example, my second child is Rebecca, and I had to get somewhat hysterical when my husband wanted to name our third child Rachel. The thing is, if you have a Rebecca, you can't have a Rachel. It's not only the repetitive R's that get to me. The names they're too close in the Genesis chapters. So you can have a Rebecca and a Hannah, you can have a Rebecca and an Eliana, but you really cannot have a Rebecca and a Rachel. Brian and I had such an easy time naming our first two kids, we were really unprepared for this struggle with number 3. We wanted our kids to have more Jewish names than our own very assimilated names, but we weren't ready for super Jewish choices. So for our oldest, we landed on Samuel, naming him after a Sarah and calling him Sam, an Americanized biblical name that our neighbors in Edina could easily get. And we did live in Edina. And then the aforementioned Rebecca for the next one. Shmuel and Rivka for their Hebrew names, easy, done, very logically paired, but not like in a boxed set kind of way. We were in the hospital just hours after having our third child when I got Brian to move on from Rachel for good by agreeing to use Rachel as her middle name. And then a name came to me, disregarding all of my own rules about simple, easy, non-fussy, and Jewish enough names. Alyssa. Alyssa Rachel Badzin. Alyssa spelled how, Brian asked. E-L-I-S-S-A, the Jewish way. He said it wasn't a Jewish name, no matter how we spelled it. And I had to concede that was technically true, but argued that with the L in the beginning, it was like Jew-ish. And her Hebrew name could be Elisheva, I said, so it's like Alyssa's sort of short for Elisheva. He said that was a stretch, but reluctantly agreed, as it's pretty hard to argue with the person who just delivered your third child. But the problem with breaking my own rules about using non-fussy names is that many people mispronounce Alyssa as Elisa, or strangely, Alicia. But worse was all the people who called her Lissy. And Lissy sounds like pissy. And pissy, my friends, is not a good name. When Alyssa was 2, I'd had enough, and I came to Brian with an idea. I think we should change Alyssa's name. Fine, he said, let's do it. Seriously? She's 2, I said. I was surprised he'd even entertain me on this. We can call her Rachel, he said. Obviously, I rejected that. And then he said, do whatever you want, but I'm naming the next baby. You don't mean that, I said. But he did, and I was in fact pregnant with our 4th baby at the time. But I didn't take this promise too seriously, and I made the deal. I Googled how to legally change the name of a minor, researching anything that sounded like Alyssa but had that ease of Sam and Rebecca that I missed. First, I picked Eliza, reasoning that Eliza and Alyssa look similar on paper. But then we'd have the is it Eliza, is it Eliza thing. But next I picked Libby, since it was really closer to Lissy, which was the name she had been accustomed to hearing for 2 years. Excited, I stayed up all night. Libby Rachel Badzin. That was perfect. So the next day, a friend came over with their kids, and we practiced calling 2-year-old Alyssa Libby the whole morning to see how it felt, and it felt really weird. What Alyssa needed, we realized, was a new nickname, not a legal name change. My friend Nancy suggested we call her Ellie, shifting the nickname from the Liz part to the L part. I liked that. That made sense. So I forced Rebecca and Sam to call her Ellie. Sam cried, and Rebecca requested we change her name from Rebecca to Hula. That's when I ended my plan to change Alyssa's name. For a while, I tried encouraging people to at least call her Alyssa instead of Lissy, which seemed reasonable, and everyone generally ignored me. But months later, I had too much pregnancy, heartburn to care, and I accepted that she was our Alyssa, and she's our Lissy, and our Lulu, and we mostly call her Lou, actually, now. But Brian was not kidding about naming our 4th child. He felt I had pretty much terrorized him and the children about baby names for a long time, and he didn't care that strangers inexplicably emailed me for suggestions. He was totally done. Once again, in the hospital, making a final decision about a name, this time for a boy, Brian chose Nathan, and we decided not to share his name until the bris. Let's call him Nate, I said, during that week of waiting when we had time to discuss it before telling people. I tried to explain how in my rules you have to think about what the sound in the ear, and those 3 N's in Nathan, Badzin is like kind of a lot. And he agreed, I swear he did. But now, 8 years later, I call our son Nate, and Brian calls him Nathan. And we are definitely not having any more babies to get on the same page. All I can do is continue helping other Jewish parents name their babies and hope I can convince them there's really no such thing as the right Jewish baby name, just like there's no such thing as the right kind of Jew. That said, in case you're curious, I did tell that dad, whose wife likes trendy baby names, that I 100% agreed with him about Mackenzie and Hunter Weisberg. Because really, that's a no from this baby name advisor.